Hello, everyone, to all the Liverpool fans around the world listening. We're coming at you live today in telecom, telecolor, on the interwebs. I'm your host today, Dan, and I'm joined by my brother Hassan. Welcome, Hassan. It's been a while since we've hosted a stream together. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just getting bored because of international break.
I know it's a slow news day. The transfer window's over, but we're still here live talking about the Reds. We might be joined by two other guests today. We'll see if they hop on here. If they will, I'll do a quick pause and intro to introduce them. Today we're going to be looking at some interesting news. There are rumors of Adrian Rabiot and Mark Guehi potentially being looked at either in the January transfer window or the summer, though I imagine the summer. Even though Rabiot is a free agent right now. Uh, McAllister and Bradley are impressing on the international teams, which makes sense. Northern Ireland aren't that good, and McAllister is the best midfielder at Argentina and Endo's recent comments on playing in slot system. So it's going to be a pretty easy and relaxed day today. We'll kind of talk about some other things as well. We'll catch up on some other news this week that I was not here for or Hassan was here for. So we'll just kind of get our thoughts about that as well. But yeah, no. So this is a very slow week. So let's start off with that. It's international break. Hassan, this is our first international break under Arne Slot. I don't think they've announced if he's won manager of the month yet. I don't think they've announced that at all. If someone is watching in the chat, please correct me if you have seen what they've announced the manager of the month. But it's just
Yeah,
sad. I
yeah,
was. It's so sad. I forgot how lonely these international breaks were. Maybe because last year there was
yeah,
just so much more going on. I
yeah,
figured it went pretty fast, but I feel like this one is just dragging on and on and on. And I just want to see the Reds on our slots boys back and playing. How are you getting through? How
yeah.
are you
Feel
getting
like
through?
there was a 100 meter shoot. It just began, and at 50 meters they said stop it, and now everything seems to be in confusion. We started off really well the season. Now we want more and more, so we are not getting our rush anymore because of this international break.
Yeah, how are you feeling about this so far? I mean, obviously Jamie you just mentioned Rio Naguma is a red. He's one of the youth players that we were linked to very early in the summer. We eventually did sign him. We signed another youth player, I believe, from Wolves, another 16-year-old, similar to what we did with
Eh,
trade Neoni last year. Obviously, our transfer window this year was it was actually we actually had the second highest net spend behind Manchester City, which is a very interesting so net spend is in like we had the most profit in terms of the players we sold. We only brought in Georgi Marmadashvili, who is coming in next year, and we bought in Federico Chiesa, who has been trading with the U21s. What are your thoughts kind of like on the transfer window in general and kind of this first start? Because after this, things are going to start getting very serious. And I'm going to start looking at the fixtures here. Um, while you give me your thoughts, Hassan.
yeah. uh, I think because of the really good start, I think the window went in the back burner. Uh, the window was a bit disappointing because I think the main players or position which we needed to solidify was not made. But I trust the our technical staff, and they don't panic and get a player which will not suit us. So I think we will wait for the perfect player who will come in and improve the team. So in that aspect, I am a bit satisfied and a bit calmer. And because of the start we have made under Arne Slot, it looks like he has things under control. Players have digested his tactics and playing really well. I think the real test will begin after this international break when the games will come thick and fast. So I think it will. I think then it will show how he manages the team. The real test, how he rotates the players who are in fringes, how he manage them and them in when they are needed. So I think it will be really interesting and pulsating after the international break.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. James, I think you're a bit behind on this. I completely agree with you. They started making this approach back in 2018, 2019. This is when Klopp and Linders, I believe, this is when Linders became the assistant head coach after being the first team coach for the years under Rodgers. Well, he was in the youth system with Brandon Rodgers, and then he was promoted under Jurgen Klopp. That they have moved away from a quantity to a quality approach. That's why they've been bringing in players from other academies, especially 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and even Rio Naguma. I believe I'm saying his name right. If someone can correct me in the future, I would very much appreciate that. Is that they are very much going for a quantity over quality, and if they feel like someone is again opportunistic signing, they'll go and get them. I think Harvey Elliott is a good example of that. Fabio Carvalho, who are recent. Bobby Clark was bought from Newcastle. I want to say McConnell was from Sunderland, but I might be wrong
Yeah,
about that. He
yeah, he
was,
was.
yeah. So we always had we've always been willing to bring in other players from other academies, buy them, and bring them into our system and train them up real quick. And that's just the nature of how Liverpool have approached their academy system. You can look at Crystal Palace, which we have some people that have firsthand experience um, in our chat with the Crystal Palace Youth Academy system that they very much go for there's a huge quantity and quality with their setup. So Chelsea and Palace and the whole London area in general just has absolutely amazing talents that just fall through the cracks. So if you're in a situation like Liverpool where you can get some of those players that are being frozen out like Rio is at Chelsea, then you just go and you snatch up those players when you can. Also, yes, Mihai, you did an amazing job with the thumbnail. I think you and Legolas of the Woodwood realm. I can't remember his. I can't of the Woodland realm. Woodland realm. That's what it is. Mirkwood. That's where Legolas is from. I remember my Tolkien legendarium. I swear. Speaking of Speaking of depth and coming back from the international break, Hassan. So currently, right now, and I know that John here has mentioned the squad depth. I completely agree. If we stay injury free, I think we'll be good. Coming out of the international break, so next Saturday we have Nottingham Forest. Tuesday we have AC Milan away. We then have Bournemouth at home, West Ham at home, and then Wolves away. That is from the 14th of September to the 28th of September. So we are playing 5 games in 14 days. And if you do the math real quick, that's almost a game every 2.5 to 3 days. So we are going to be using the whole squad depth. Now, obviously, you mentioned the fact that they did not buy a midfielder, or they did not buy a six, is the big one they've said. And we also didn't buy a defender, which I know that a lot of people have been, including myself, saying that you can make an argument we could buy. So there were rumors that Liverpool earlier this week with Fabrizio Romano reporting that they might go back in for Martin Zubimendi. I don't know how realistic that is. I mean, it's possible. We've gone back in for Van Dijk and bought him in December. That's the more famous one. Players that we've said no to and gone back and bought, like Alisson Becker. I don't think there's a possibility that Martin Zubimendi comes in January unless one, Sociedad are doing very poorly and they need money and they need to buy players, or two, Liverpool are going to eh, pay his buyout clause and do many pushes for it. But I don't know. I feel like that ship has kind of sailed for Martin. If you've already turned it down once, second time's the charm, I guess. But there are rumors also about Adrian Rabiot and Mark Guehi obviously being linked as well again. Now, I think Mark Guehi being linked is just the fact that Palace wanted to sell him. Newcastle wanted to get him for 55. Palace wanted 75. Palace sold their center back to Fulham and bought Lacroix from Wolfsburg, which is a player that some other people in the chat have wanted before. I I don't think Mark Gehi's a realistic option either this January window or even next summer because I think he's too old and I just don't think he's that good at anything that you want from a defender because as we know right now, we we have three players that are going to be out of contract next year, and there's been no movement on that as far as we're aware. Fabrizio Romano did report, and I believe there's been other reports from Paul Gorst or David Lynch that have said that Liverpool are going to start the process of negotiating those contracts with them now. I don't know how far along those talks are or how long they've developed before, but what are your thoughts on Rabiot and Mark Guehi? Personally, I don't rate either of them. I think there's a reason Adrian Rabiot has not been bought by anybody. But maybe they go, maybe he goes to Real Sociedad and we buy Martin Zubimendi. I'd be okay with that deal.
Yeah, but the wages and his demands are insane. I don't think the Sociedad can afford him. And the only thing about Martin Zubimendi, it was all over the media. I don't know how much was the truth in it and how much was made up. And I think the only way he joins us now, it will be in January. And if he does not sign a new contract with Sociedad, I think they gave him, they presented him with all the things, and I don't think they have been able to uh, make it in real. So I think that's why he's a bit taken aback, and he might consider signing for us. And Rabio, I think he's a good player, but he's not someone so good that we can break our structure for him, wages wise and age wise. Also, he's 29. Maybe he'll get 30 in this year also. So I don't think it's a credible link. And Gehi, as you said, I completely agree. His age and all the things, I don't think he's left-footed as well. So I think if we go for a player, he will be a center back who can play at left back or left-sided, who can eventually be the successor of Van Dijk.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. So James, I saw here that you don't get the Rabiot hate. So for me, the problem with Rabiot is that he was one of those players that went to PSG very early on in his career, got a massive wage increase, and every time he's tried to move on, one, no one's given PSG money because they wanted money for him, and also the wages he's on has been ridiculous. I think Adrian Rabiot as a player, if you're just doing like a player radar or like just doing like their core abilities. I think he's a very good player. I just think he doesn't fit with what Slot wants to do with a possession and pressing team because the thing is about this Liverpool team is that it is still a team that runs and presses. Obviously, it's more possession based. It's a mix of Rafa and Jurgen in the sense there's more emphasis on possession than counter pressing, but the counter pressing is still there, and you can see in that United victory. Sorry, Manchester is red forever. Like when you have three midfielders that can run, you just cover you can break apart teams that don't have great passing, don't have enough legs in the midfield, or a bit of a broken team and they can't really fix it. And I think that's what we saw. Michael, so I saw this as well. Zubimendi loan to buy to the end of the season. So there's two problems with that. I mean, obviously, if Sociedad agreed to that, I think Liverpool would snatch it up in a heartbeat. There are two problems with that. One, if Zubimendi turns you down first with Richard Hughes, I don't know how likely Richard Hughes is to come back and say, okay, yeah, look, turn this down once, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I think Sociedad have a problem where they sold Martin Marino, Mikel Marino. I'm sorry, not Martin Marino. Mikel Marino to Arsenal, and there was a there was an issue with Mikel Marino, who's now been sold to Sociedad, and from Sociedad to Arsenal. He's
Arsenal.
already injured. They need to replace him. and they don't really have a lot of money right now. They finished sixth, so they're actually in European competition, I believe, with La Liga. I think they're in the Conference League, and they've already had a bad start to the season. Now they're not going to sack their manager. Sociedad don't usually sack their managers, but they've already started out not that great, and they're not a goal scoring team. They're very much built on defense. So I don't think they would do a loan to buy option. I think they would do a straight swap, but they would only do a straight swap if they already have players lined up to come in. So that'd be my only issue with that. Now I do want to mention this because we're going to move on to our second topic before we do that. So Harvey Elliott has already picked up a knock and injury, so everyone's anxieties is coming out about our squad depth. I don't know how serious it is. We won't know till next week. If he's out against Forest, that's fine. Because where Harvey's going to be needed is maybe not the first two games of this week, but definitely by the end of not next week, but the week after. So the 21st, roughly, I would say, is when you probably want him by.
West Ham game
It's like,
is Carling Cup,
yeah,
so the
yeah,
Carabao Cup. Sorry.
that
So
would be the game I'd try to get him fit for, just to get him some time on the field and rotation because we haven't used him a lot. Obviously, McAllister, I think, has also had a little bit of a knock to his adductor, his hip, as well, which again isn't great because midfield is not our. Well, we have currently right now we have 8 midfielders. If you during for the double pivot position, it's 4. No, I'm sorry, it's 6. No, it's 8 midfielders. Yeah, or is it 6? Is it 6? No, it's 7. Hassan, I can never get these numbers right. It's 7. It's 7 because it's Dominic Soboslai, Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister, Wataru Endo, Harvey Elliott, Tyler Morton, and Curtis Jones. So it's 7 actually. I retract my statement. We have 5 midfielders for the double pivot, and we have 2 for the 10, more or less. I think the way the numbers break. If Curtis Jones has been injured, so he needs game time. We don't know what his
yeah,
timeline to
status
return
is
is. If Harvey Elliott's injured, we're now down to 5 midfielders overall. And if McAllister, we're down to 4. And that's when we have about a lot of games, 5 games in 14 days, which is, I think a lot of people will start getting a bit anxious by then. And that's not even till the next international break. There are 2 more games after that in October. So 7 games in 21 days. So pretty much 3 games. So I'm not trying to get anybody anxious. I just think that there is a potential reality where I think everyone's fears of the squad being injured come true, and then we're not going to hear the end of it. Hassan, I know Hassan, Hassan, we're not going to hear the end of it in our chat if that happens. But are you worried at all about any of these knocks or injuries? I mean, I'm personally not, but what are your thoughts?
you're not worried about McAllister's if it's serious or not.
No, no, it's not serious. So they said they're gonna get him ready for Colombia, which is worrying to me because I'm like, why are you gonna make a guy with the
Yeah,
injured at hip play for Colombia? But they obviously don't think he's that injured. But
so
with Harvey, we
he
don't
should be
know.
rested for that
Yeah,
game if
yeah,
he's a doubt.
yeah. I'm just worried if he has a knock and they have to keep him out for like a couple games, and then we're down to 4 midfielders for Nottingham Forest and AC Milan. And that's really for me the big thing that I think Slot's got to figure out is what you're going to do for those first 2 games. Because if everyone comes back and there's no big injuries, players start to get injuries now. It's okay, Alan. We don't know the extent of the injuries yet. We don't know if this is a weak light tissue injury or what the situation is. The big question is Curtis Jones because we don't know his condition.
Yeah,
But I'm not
but
worried right now because no one has a long term injury. But what do you think, Hassan?
I am worried because the international break is still on, and there's not a good track record, especially in England players. So I'm worried, and the long traveling is also not helpful. So hopefully, Chiesa has stayed back and he played with the under 21s, and the manager was really impressed by him, the work rate he put in, and the lessons he gave to the younger guys. So that I have been really impressed by him, the way he came in, and how he's over the moon every time we see him, and the way he said that he'll stay back, and like It happened with Gravenberg also. The manager is still not over that snub from him. Koeman is still bitter about him, but he has shown his quality, and he has made that position his own. So I think it will be. I'm always worried when the international break is international games are going on, and the way these managers over work these players.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we've seen players show their quality. It's just a more a matter of keeping them fit. I think is going to be the biggest, the biggest
Mhm.
worry. All right. So before we move on to our next topic, and I know Jim has already mentioned it, make sure you guys get your comments in. I'll do a quick round at the end of the stream because again, very light news week. So we're following our rough agenda, but I'll hit up comments as we go along. Hit those likes, subscribes, and subs. Trying to get to 11,000. We are very close. And again, if you are watching right now on Twitter/X, just go to the YouTube, hit the look up LFC Transfer Room, hit subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like video if you want to save it. And again, you can go leave me some comments because I won't see any comments from X. So if you really want to get involved in the conversation, make sure you go to YouTube and do that. So our next topic, I know we've already mentioned it. Bradley and McAllister have been impressing in the on the international stage. I'll start with Bradley first, and then we'll go to McAllister, Hassan. So I think Connor Bradley's like the best Northern Ireland player right now, which is not it's not saying much. I think the fact that Slot has kept him around to back up Trent, I think is a very good sign of his quality because they could have loaned him out or sold him and bought a right back. I don't think that would have been smart, but that was something they could have done, chose to do this summer. They obviously didn't. But they obviously didn't do that. But for me, I just think he's just so good. Like I honestly think right now there's not many right backs right now that I would take ahead of Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Connor Bradley at this moment is one of them. And the fact that he's good at both Slot's possession style, but Klopp's counter pressing is impressive to me. The only worry is that since he's the best Ireland player, is that he's always going to play Northern Ireland games. So again, going back to the injury front, it's going to be a worry. But I think it's good that he's getting the games though, because he's still young and he's developing, and the more games he gets at his age right now, the better. But what are your thoughts on Connor Bradley at all?
Yeah, I think without before that Ben Woodward, we gave them their best player before him, Bradley, but his career didn't pan out like which we all thought he can be. But Bradley, I think he has taken his chance really well. I think we brought in Ramsey for as a second right back, but with Ramsey, he had been really unlucky with injuries and didn't get the chance because he was not fit. And when Bradley was given his chance, he had a really good loan spell. He was the player of the year for the club Bolton. I think he went to. He was player of the year there. So when he got the chance here, he grabbed it by both hands.
Yeah, it's good to see that. Minty, it's good to see you. I brought you in. No ceremony, by the way. I just brought you in all cool like that, like you were meant to be here this whole time. How are you, Minty?
Good. My bad. Just got stuck in traffic. You know
You
how it is.
good? Yeah, no, I know, you're good. So, Minty, I'll get your thoughts real quick. We'll work backwards. I'll allow you to kind of take a few moments to talk. So, obviously, right now, me and Hazan have talked about it. We'll probably talk about it a little more once we transition to our through our second to third topic. But Rabiot and Guehi have been linked again. On top of that, obviously, Fabrizio Romano has mentioned Martin Zubimendi potentially coming back to Liverpool. At this moment in time, we have 7 midfielders, 8 defenders, and 6 forwards. Of those 7 midfielders, right now, we know Curtis Jones has an injury. Harvey Elliott picked up a bit of a knock, and he's come back from training. We don't know how severe it is. It might just be that he's out for next Saturday, but he's good by AC Milan. We just don't know. And McAllister now has reportedly rumored to have a slight hip issue, but he's good to go against Colombia. So it seems to be more of like a small little injury rather than like something that requires timeout. How do you feel about Adrian Rabiot as a potential signing for Liverpool or Mark Guehi? Personally, like I told Hassan, I don't really rate either one of them. Not because I don't think they're good players, but I just don't think they are the quality that Liverpool need, especially at the price and wages that they would command. Um, they feel very much like Manchester United signings, and not in a good way. They feel like players that are decent, but are limited and command high fees and high wages, and will ultimately just make sure they end up eighth. But what are your thoughts, Menti?
Nah, I agree with you. I don't see them as like a Liverpool player, and I think if Liverpool do want a midfielder, I think they're just gonna wait till January and go back in for Zubimendi. It seemed like he was their target one, like whether fans like it or not. I mean, if they go and get him, we're all gonna end up like supporting him. But he's a good player. That's their target. Um, and they said they're not gonna let outside pressure come in. So I'm saying I doubt these guys will come into the club just because Rabiot, his wage, he's gonna ask for some crazy amount, and he's how old is he? 29.
You talking about Rabiot is 29,
Yeah,
and
and
also Hassan is better than Guehi, confirmed. We got to get Hassan in to the Ajax, to the La Axa.
and
Go ahead, Minty.
Laksa.
I think I don't think we'll get Guehi just because I mean he was good for in the Euros, but I don't see him as like a ball playing center back that Sot likes in his system. I see players like Diamande or something like that could drive with the ball, a little bit similar to Van Dijk. But yeah, no, Rabia is a no. But Zubamendi, go back in. I'll be happy with it. I have no issues with him turning it down. I don't know what talks they had behind the scenes, but Richard Hughes and them seem to be determined. So I'm gonna give them a chance. Can't complain, but
Take it from Minty. Minty, if someone tells if Minty, if he fails the first time, he's like, you know what? I respect. I'll be back in 6 months. I'll come check in. I'm gonna hit
hey,
you up again and be like, hey,
they're
like
doing bad
let's just
too. His club is doing awful in La
no,
Liga.
they are. They are. No, that's the part I was raising with Assad is that Real Sociedad are not having a good season so far. They've started pretty poorly. They don't score a lot of goals and they're conceding goals. So I think I think it could be a situation where he says, you know what? I don't the mountains are not that great. The paella is kind of meh, you know. I'm okay with coming back, and Richard Hughes will probably say, "Hey, look, he's back in again," and that will be up to obviously Hughes and the recruitment team. I mean, if Zubimendi genuinely was like, you know what, I was wrong, please take me back. Obviously minds can be changed, and if he commits, he commits, and if he's a Liverpool player, no one cares. I think the reason they say he's the only one is that if you look at a lot of the midfielders that moved, not one of them is one that I think is a viable better player than what we have. The only arguable player is probably Ugarte, but he's just a better version of Wataru Endo. But he's only better in the sense that he just has legs. I don't think he's a more technical player than Wataru Endo is, but that's just me. And I think when United bought him, I'm still confused about why they buy him because they have so many problems. And also, I'm all for um, Breath White to come to Liverpool just for the fume. I want us to buy him. Everton gets relegated, we buy him, and then we buy Anthony Gordon, and then we just laugh, and then we buy Goodison Park too, and we turn it into the women's the women's the Super League's stadium, and then we just say like, all right, so Goodison Park is now the women's team's home ground, and then we have Anfield for the men's team, and then they just swap for away games. That's the future. That's the future for Everton. That's the future for Everton. Also, Minty. So obviously, we were just talking about Connor Bradley. What are your thoughts on Connor Bradley? Obviously, I think he's the best Northern Ireland player. I think Slot rates him very highly because they could have sold him like they did with Sepp or Fabio Carvalho, or they could have loaned him like Becker Chambers. Obviously, they kept him around, so Slot obviously rates him. I think he's looked good in both possession and in counter pressing. And I think regardless of what happens with, the contract situations with Trent, Virgil, and Mo, keeping someone like Connor Bradley around and offering game time. I know Jamie has also mentioned him playing both sides. I really don't want to see that because we did that with Nico Williams and it wasn't great at times. Granted, we won a title, but I don't want to see that happen with Connor Bradley. I think he's a right back slash right wing back. You could probably play him as like a right mid if you want to be picky with it. But what are your thoughts on Connor Bradley so far?
Oh, he's so good. I rate him a lot. Like, I really do like him. It's just, for him, it's just Trent in front of him. But we're in enough competition where Slott's gonna play him. But I love when Bradley comes on because like the burst of speed he has, and like he has nice passing with Salah. Sometimes I'm like, yo, this guy's nice, and he's defensively he's amazing. So highly rate Bradley. Keep him for the long haul. I think he's gonna be great for the club. So he's just gonna keep on getting better with age. I rate him a lot. So yeah, and I
Yeah,
saw some of his stats for his international team. I was like, yo, this guy's a beast. He's very good for his age.
yeah, he is, and I think it's crazy that he's still like 20. I don't think he turns
He's
21
so young.
yet. Yeah, I'm actually looking at his birthday real quick. So we're gonna move on to kind of not we're gonna finish up our second topic, and we're gonna look at McAllister. So Hassan, I'm gonna come back to you. So obviously the discussion a lot with Liverpool in the sixth position, and I hate this conversation, and I've said this so many times. And the reason I hate it is because it's not about the DM position itself; it's what type of profile of player do you want there, because there are different types. You have your players that actually he's 21 now. Connor Bradley's actually 21, just a correction, not 20. He is 21, but he just turned 21 in July, so he's practically 20. He's a fresh baby 21. He can now legally drink in the United States. Good for Connor. Hassan, the the discussion of six always has to do with players like Gravenberch and McAllister because people don't see them as deeper line playmakers. They want to see McAllister as the 10 because they have that memory of when McAllister played with Wataru Endo and Curtis Jones, and he was able to play more more forward, and how good we were playing at that time, which I think is perfectly fine to have that opinion of getting McAllister forward at times. I think the issue with that is that McAllister can be both, and this is what I've said since last year: is that McAllister can play both as a 6 and 8 or 10. It doesn't matter. What really matters is what is the setup around him. Because Slot could play Gravenberch, Jones, and McAllister as the 10, and I think he probably would do that. He would probably do that once or twice if Curtis Jones wasn't currently having a pulled groin or whatever his injury is at the moment, and hopefully he'll be back after the international break and ready to play. And potentially he could start against Forest next Saturday if he's not injured and if Slot says he's ready to go. I I don't think Liverpool should buy a player to move McAllister forward. I think they should buy a player that is essentially a better version of Wataru Endo. So someone that's going to come in and essentially can do what a McAllister does, what a Gravenberch does, what a Jones does, what a Tyler Morton can do, which is someone who is like Martin Zubimendi, who is good in the air, good in possession, good on the turn, and is maybe not a superstar, someone who is just, the next Rodri or world like or Aurelien Chouameni or even Ryan Gravenberch, who is the Lisan El Gayeb for all my Dune fans out there. He is the one that will lead us to the promised land. Ryan Gravenberch is the six. But what are your thoughts on McAllister's position and potentially buying a six to push him up?
Yeah, the best thing about McAllister is he's not one-dimensional player. He's really intelligent, and his intelligence can be worked at as a six or an eight or even at a 10. So this kind of a player can be the first name on the team sheet. So I think and Slot with all the news coming in and the way he speaks, he likes technical players like them. He does not need a all-out destroyer. So I think he'll be the first man in the team if he's fit and ready to play. Uh, with Gravenberg, again, he's really calm under pressure. If we look back at the game against United, our midfield really dominated them, and the real difference was we were really calm under pressure, and we didn't give the ball away like them. In their midfield, whenever they get into pressure, they gave the ball away. So I think if I really agree with you, we are looking at Zubimendi, because I think he'll play with a double pivot, and it's his preferred formation players.
Yeah, Minty, I'll throw the same question to you as well, because again, I think people misunderstand what Alexis McAllister is. He is very much a 6 and 8 and a 10. He at Brighton he played a double pivot 6 with Moises Caicedo, and obviously he would be the one that goes forward. And I think we've seen over the past 3 games that United he set back and Gravenberch went forward, but against Brentford McAllister went forward and Gravenberch actually stayed back a bit. So there has been this idea from Slot to tactically switch which one wants to sit and cover and screen and which one goes forward. And it's very much built on how they tactically approach the game. I don't think you need to buy a midfielder to unlock McAllister. I think you just need to buy a midfielder that allows you to switch everyone around depending on tactical situations. So rather than being a permanent positional change, it would be a situation where you can make a tactical adjustment within a game, like we did against Ipswich when we took Quans off and put Konate on. Which what a squad to have, that you can take a very promising English youth player and you're like, all right, you're having a bad day, we could take you out, protect you, and throw on a French international center back that is better than William Saliba, and win the game and change our approach. But what are your thoughts on the DM6 and potentially moving McAllister around?
I think in Slot systems, it seems like he prefers midfielders that are like versatile, so they're able to rotate in the positions depending on who goes forward and who doesn't. But for me, I still do think we need to go ahead and get someone, just because Endo knows he's not going to be like the long term solution. So I can see next year Endo actually being gone from the club and them just moving on. But yeah, if we don't get Zubimendi, there's like a guy that we are linked to. What's his name? The Argentinian. His name is like Santiago Hezi, the guy at Olympiacos.
Yeah,
I
I
watched
thought
some.
you were talking about Varela.
I saw some of this guy's highlights, and he's 22. I was like, yo, this guy is like, he's like a destroyer, but like he's technically so good. It's kind of insane. It's like he could do the same things as Endo, except he's technically like, it's
Much
crazy.
younger also.
I know it's YouTube highlights, but you have me sold, buddy.
Hey, listen, YouTube highlights, transfer scout. That's the best. That's the best scouting in the world.
But I
We all are
just need to
experts.
say the eye test for me passes, but if the club feel like we are linked with him, so they feel like he could come in and do something, that's like alternative option. But if they could get Zubimendi, I think no matter what, they're gonna go for him. And I've been seeing some tweets, people saying like he's got to take a wage reduction. I don't think that's gonna happen. If the club could seal that deal, I think they're still gonna offer him, just because the quality player he is. I don't know. Honestly, we just need a 6, just because we're going to play so many games. And with these injuries racking up, you know how it is for Liverpool. During the Klopp era, all that pressing, it just stacks up slowly and slowly. So, hey, I trust the club now, though. We'll see how it goes. I don't trust FSG, but we'll see how it goes.
I'm
Yeah, I
worried
mean,
about
oh, go ahead,
Soboslai.
son.
I'm worried about Soboslai. The way he started, I don't know how much he runs per game. It must be 15 kilometers.
He runs the most
So
on the team, yeah.
yeah, so he's the
But
one.
the thing is, I think what the club will do is like in January, if we're in a position to push, I feel like they'll get reinforcements. So I'm just
Hopefully,
gonna hope they keep going crazy, because so far, 3 tests. You remember Ant Postecoglou last year, where you went
yes.
crazy for 6 games. We're winning the league. All the Spurs fans, and it just went. Meow. So we just gotta wait till that January window and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think you have the option to do a lot of things in January. I don't know if Zubimendi could happen because again, the last time we bought someone that we tried to get in the summer. Oh, sorry guys, a little bit of everything. So I don't know. I don't know if we can get Zubimendi. I think you could buy anyone, and I know you mentioned the 6 before, but for me the question of the 6 is is less so like the actual specific profile, but someone that can do like a 6-8-10. So I think that's what Zubamendi gives you is that he can do a 6 and 8, and you could put him in a 10. I do agree with Hassan with Soboslai's running, but I think that's just the type of player Soboslai is, where he is you're just gonna have to run his race. Like I think he's gonna be one of those players where his best games are your first 20 to 25 starts, where he has the most energy, and then as the season runs down, he's just gonna be less and less effective. And I think that's fine with someone like Soloslai because it's more about managing when he's hot, and I think he's always just gonna be someone that from like August to October or November, he's gonna be the best player you've ever seen, and then by April, he's gonna be just another player. And I think that's just kind of might be the player he is. And that was my theory on it after last year with how many games he's played. But, we'll see. There were other good midfielders out there. I know Joao Gomez is a good one that we could potentially get as well. And Minty, I know you mentioned a couple others as well. For me, I think it's more about it's always about getting the right player and not just a player. Because when you get a player, that's how you get your Ozan Kabaks, your Ben Davies, who I don't think were bad players. They were just not up to the standard that Liverpool needed. And I also would say that we could be in a situation by January or even by May, June, that the type of midfielder they want to buy is no longer the midfielder we're linked with. So it may go from being like a Zubamendi to I'm trying to think of midfielders right now who are out. It might be from going from a Zubamendi to someone, the youth player at Monaco that I put in there. I forget what his name is. He's like 2021. Someone who's very raw and very much like a Gravenberg type player, but with more defensive actions than offensive actions. But again, I think you could go a lot of different directions by January. We'll see. We'll see about that. All right, so let us move on to our last topic today. So we're gonna again talk about Wataru Endo to round up today, and then I think I got all the questions so far. If there are any final questions, we'll do them before we end the stream. So Wataru Endo has obviously not played that much. We saw him in preseason. He was pretty rocky with the style of play that Slot wanted to do. I think that's because Endo doesn't really suit a double pivot as well as being a low and six, like with how Klopp had him at times. I do think he's a smart enough player, and there is enough technical ability there to play a part, even if it's not a starting role for long periods of time. But obviously, Endo is a quality player, even if he's not. Obviously, he doesn't have the ceiling of Gravenberg or any of like the other midfielders. But if he can come in and do a good job for 60 to 70 minutes, I think you can do that against like lower division sides, especially when you need to give, say, Ryan Gravenberg a rest, or Alexis McAllister. Yes, James, we'll do an NFL panel at the end, but it's just going to be us mentioning how the Kansas City Chiefs are just going to win everything again. It's just too much, man. Varela and Wharton, I think are all good players. It's just different profiles. So Varela and Wharton are just two different types of profiles of players. You could go for more of Varela from Porto, someone who's a bit more kind of like a Zubamendi, or an Adam Wharton who's more destructive. But I think that'll something that we'll see evolve over this year. So Wataru Endo, Minty, I'll go back to you and then Hassan. Do you think Wataru Endo can fit into the system? I mean, we really don't have I don't think the question is, that he's still at the club, so they're probably going to use him. But do you think he can fit in the system? If nothing else, for like 6 months, even if it doesn't work too well, do you think he has enough quality to get us through a sticky 3 weeks or so? Or do you think the club missed a chance with like selling him to Marseille and going all in for another midfielder?
For me, I love Endo, but I don't want to take that chance because if we're in like a pole position, like at the his first season, he didn't start off too well, and then you saw that span where he was like amazing. Like when he played with City, it was like, who is this guy? It was like completely different player. But for me, like we just can't take that risk with Endo just because, like you see, there's been times where he receives the ball with his back against the defender and like he'll turn, instant turnover. I just feel like Slot already identified that as a weakness. That's why we're going for Zubamendi, and I feel like Endo knows that, and he's coming out with quotes saying, "I feel like my time will come," and he's like very calm-headed. But for me, I feel like this season they're going to give him a chance. But But if there's like an opportunity in January, they'll get someone. If not, I think they're perfectly happy with using Endo. I don't mind it. For right now, I'm just gonna trust the coaches. It's looking good, so all we can do is just support. But for me, it really don't matter. It's up to them.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the best approach to have at this point. I think Wataru Endo has shown that he is very capable of improving, even at his not entering the latter stages of his career, being 30, 29 last year, 30, 31. So he's obviously not going to get faster, but there doesn't mean that he can't still improve. And obviously, he's a very intelligent player. He does his own post online, his own tactical approach. But I mean, yeah, I think he can offer a role. I'm just more worried if we're having to start Endo like 5 games in a row. If Wataru Endo comes and he gives us, let's say, 15 to 20 games this year, let's say he gives us 10 starts, roughly 10 starts in there, I think that's the ideal situation. And that's just to help manage like minutes and maybe even coming in a little bit more to help out with legs at times. And I completely agree. Hassan, what are your thoughts on Endo and within slot system?
Yeah, I agree with you. He's a really intelligent player, and the coach, when he came in, he understands the situation. Uh, the way he was brought in, I don't think he was over the moon, and he started counting his blessings, because at 30 he got the chance to play in Premier League and at Liverpool. He understands the situation that he will not automatically be the starter. So I think he knows whenever he will get the chance, he'll have to show his best game. And I think with so many games coming in, he'll get chance surely in the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and in the Champions League when we play some smaller teams. So there are so many games, and with games coming in thick and fast, maybe if we are playing a lower table team, he'll get the chance, because with this starting 11, with Gravenberch and McAllister, we cannot go throughout the season with these two players. I think him and Morton will get chances. I think he knows that whenever he will get the chance, he'll have to take them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that Morton and Endo are actually very similar players. I think Morton's a little bit better. And I've always said that you can keep people were saying, I was doing one with Jay, I think back in the middle of August, where he said, with like Badgetich and Morton both being linked away. And I said, well, you're gonna have to sell. You either have to loan. If you loan one, keep the other, and if you sell one, keep the other. If you loan or sell one of both, one or the other. So if Badgetich went alone, we had to end up selling Morton. I'd be very worried with having 6 midfielders because we just don't. We have a huge gap to Trey Neoni, and I think they really want to clear the decks for Trey's progression and giving him more games. And I'm personally okay with Trey like playing like FA Cup games or League Cup games and playing a younger side to augment that midfield at times to give people rest and to kind of mix it up like a more in Trey Harvey midfield. I think you can beat West Ham with in the League Cup that we're going to be playing. I don't know if they'll all be fit by them, but you could definitely do that for a one-off game just to see how it goes because we have enough quality both in our front line and defense to make up for it. But that's just how I feel on the matter. So wrapping up today. So obviously, like I said before, from September 14th to October 5th, so before to our next international break, we play Forest at home, Milan away, Bournemouth at home, West Ham at home, Wolves away, Bologna at home, Palace away, and that's till October 5th, which goes into our next international window, and then we won't have to do. So we're gonna have 7 games in roughly 21 days. No, a little bit more than 21 days. Actually, it's gonna be that's 21 days. We're gonna have 7 games in 21 days, essentially a game every 3 days. League, it doesn't matter if it's League Cup or Champions League. Obviously, last time in the Champions League, it did not go so well with the Madrid game, which to me is just it's so sad because that game we could have been 3-0 up in 20 minutes. And then Allison obviously makes a couple mistakes, and Liverpool were just at a bad mental place at the time. I think we have with Milan away and Bologna at home, I think we get 3 points from there. We don't know how this new Champions League setup's going to be. So I think that if you get 2 wins there, that sets us up nicely to kind of see where the table lies going into our second international break, because that's when our schedule gets really busy. So I think this is a time where, for me, if we win both of our Champions League games and if we beat Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, and Wolves and Palace, we can beat all those teams. I think we can go into this next international break with 4 league wins and 2 Champions League wins. My only question is, are you guys okay with crashing out of the Carabao Cup against West Ham at home? I'm okay with it because we've already won it. I don't know if Slot uh, I don't know if there's any. I don't know if Slot will want to do that, but that's just What are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think we can win all 4 league games and both Champions League games, and the Carabao Cup game, or do you think we'll lose one or draw one? Yeah, go ahead, Hassan. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, hopefully we can, and I think Slot will try to see the players on the fringes play that game against West Ham. Uh, I think with West Ham, we'll see our new signing Chiesa, and the players who have not started like Nunes, Capo, these sort of players, and he'll say that show me that you deserve the spot at the first team.
Yeah, what do you think, Minty?
I think we should be able to win all those games just because I think with the new format, if you're top 8, I'm pretty sure you got like what 2 months off or something.
Yeah, you don't have. Yeah, you get 2 months off, which I think is what a lot of clubs are going to shoot for. But we also don't know how many points it's going to take to be top 8. Because in the past, if you won your first 2 Champions League games, you're halfway to qualification because you need about 12 points to get qualified. But I think with this new setup, it's a bit weird. But what are your thoughts? Would you take a draw against Milan? Would you draw if
No,
that just meant no?
we need to win all these games just because, like, honestly, the only team that I fear, in all honesty, is Madrid just because of what they did to us at home. It's kind of crazy, but hey, I don't mind that just because our midfield back then was like a little bit outdated at the time. That's what happens when the club, don't want to invest. But I think we're way better positioned now, and it seems like the way he's coaching, I don't think Slot wants to lose Carabao Cups too. Great managers try to win every game, even though if he brings in youngsters, etc. I don't want to use the excuse on, hey, I want to focus on this competition. Let me crash out. Nah, you got to have a winner's mentality, even if it's with the youngsters. I think that's the way Slot thinks as a manager. So I think he's going to try to win everything and try to, get in the top 8. And if we did lose in the Champions League, it'll probably be that Madrid match. Leverkusen, I mean, they're pretty good, but they're always conceding a lot of goals, and usually it takes them till the 90th minute to win. But yeah, for me, I don't fear any team besides Madrid because they're just good at Champions League. But we should be able. And then our schedule after the international break, that's a crazy schedule because it gets it gets so hard. So that's why I want them to go, with some good wins, get some nice momentum into going into that break because that schedule actually looks insane. If we somehow make it through that, Liverpool fans might start saying some outrageous things. So I just want to be in the best position before that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if they can win the next couple of games, even the Carabao Cup, and because the international break afterward is where it gets insane. We have Arsenal, Leipzig, Madrid. We have a bunch of games between the late October international break. When we come back from the international break in late October to our next one, I think in November. And then we go from December to January. So that's going to be our toughest test, in my opinion, as well. And if they can get as much wins under the belt as well, it makes everything, I think, less stressful. And again, this is where Slot gets paid the big bucks. He's going to have to rotate the team, even if players have like small injuries. For me, if they don't have small injuries, in my mind, as long as you keep the squad fit and no one gets a long-term injury, I think we're good. So just to round up a couple of topics here. Actually, Jay Moosey has played in Champions League before, or he coached in Champions League before. I thought that was he coached at Feyenoord. He was at the Champions League. I think they got knocked out of the group stages a couple times, and he
Yeah,
was in the
they got
the
knocked out and
conference.
they dropped to Europa.
Yeah, but he's coached in the Champions League before, but he's coached European football in general, so Conference League, Europa League, and Champions League, so he knows kind of like what thing is. No, you're good. No reason to apologize. No reason to apologize, JMU. It's all love here, man. I just wanted to make sure. I'm glad you said something because even I was like, I don't know if that's true or not, but you made me double check myself. I appreciate it. In terms of weekend streams, so currently right now there is a stream tomorrow. And I don't know about Sunday just yet. That might just be whoever can host. But there should be a weekend stream both Saturday and Sunday. But right now Saturday is confirmed and Sunday is a bit up in the air, but that might change. Darwin. So I want to close up with a bit about Darwin Nunez. So Michael, obviously the rumors to Arsenal were completely unfounded. I don't think Nunez is going to go to Arsenal, especially not at a cut price rate. You don't sell a player to your rivals, unlike Chelsea and United, who Chelsea sent Sterling to Arsenal and United sent Sancho to Chelsea. So, unless you're Chelsea or Manchester United, you strengthen your rivals. But if you're Liverpool, you don't strengthen your rivals right now. And just to round up again, so NFL. So we'll do the NFL real quick. So Minty, did you watch the game last night?
Yes, I did.
Were you rooting for the Ravens?
Honestly, I'm a Redskins fan, so for me, I just wanted a good game. But I hate the Chiefs; they're so good.
Who's stopping that team? I know. Hassan, do you watch NFL at all?
Not at all.
That's okay.
I don't know anything.
Do you know who Patrick Mahomes is?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's all. That's all you need to know. Patrick Mahomes. Oh yeah. No, I mean, listen.
Is he the new Brady?
Yeah, he's pretty much a new Brady. Yeah, at this point. Yeah, he is the next GOAT in football, which I actually really like because I actually have appreciation for Tom Brady now, to some degree as like a professional. I hated him when he played because he ruined my childhood. I'm a Panthers fan because Carolina, they play in Charlotte. That's where I'm from. And I'm a Chargers fan because I've been a Chargers fan. They were my West Coast team, San Diego, now LA. So those were my two teams. I want to see the Chargers do well with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. And I think the Chargers can do something. But the Chargers' issue has always been injury and coaching. So they've always had talent. They just never have had the coaching or the injuries line up. Lions are a sleeper team. I think the Lions missed their shot. I think Dan Campbell got it right when he was like, this was kind of their moment. And I don't know if they can get that momentum back. They're still a good team, but I think I think now they're just going to have to churn through some players, churn through that squad a bit and rebuild again. But yeah, no, the Chiefs are just way too good. All right, guys. So last question before I round up. I don't know. We'll meet together again. So I know Mitty already said this, but I'll just get everyone's thought. Do you think we win all 7 games between now and October? Hassan, I'll go to you first. Do you think we win all 7? 4 league games? Absolutely. Minty, you think we win all 7?
Yeah. And then can I say one more thing about Darwin?
Yeah, go. Go ahead.
So Michael said something about Darwin. I mean, Darwin is going to get his chance. I'm not going to lie to you. Jota's nice. When he's healthy, he's probably likely going to play. But you're not going to cover up that stinker against United, Jota. 0 for 10 on duels. I was watching this. I'm telling you, there's going to be a chance where Slott's going to give him an opportunity. And if Darwin can perform, he's going to play. If not, honestly, I don't know. It's going to look rough for him next year. But Jota's going to probably be the striker till, Slot says otherwise. But, yeah, I think this is a probably make it or break year for Darwin, if I'm being honest with you.
I wouldn't go that far, but I know what you mean, Minty.
I feel like if he gets a chance, right, and he keeps doing the same thing, I feel like
yeah,
I will different. But I think he's good. I think he's good.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I agree with the Jota thing. He didn't have the best game against United, though. I will say during the first goal, he literally looks at Gravenberg. He says, "Pass to Salah." He tells Salah, "Kick it, go back."
Yeah.
So, the one thing I would say about Darwin versus Jota is just that game awareness. I think at times, Darwin gets very focused minded on what he's doing, and I think if he can, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that's just how Darwin plays football. Yeah. He's very I'm focused on.
He's good against high line teams.
Yeah, and I think Darwin will come good because his pressures. He had the best pressures against United when he came on. I think he's gotten better and better every year in his all-round game, and yeah, I think he'll bang. I just think it's a matter of, again, fitness and just riding that wave of his momentum. And I think if they can ride Darwin's wave from let's say when they have international break and they start him, if you because he hasn't played international games, so they might start him against Forest. If Darwin starts getting a hot hand, I think you just ride that hot hand, and I think Slot knows that very well. And also, Alan, no, FSU does not have a NFL team. They've tried to buy a couple and potentially an NBA team, but no.
They're wanted by the
nothing.
Celtics, by the way. They got moved on to. They're one of the 3 people.
Yeah, they're in talks to buy the Celtics. They were also looking at the Vegas team as well, so we'll see.
Yeah.
That'll be funny though if they
No
own the
transfers
Celtics.
for you guys. Not just kidding.
No, I mean I think it'll be fun if they own the NBA with because they have a cap. They do have a salary cap in the NBA, so it's actually like a lot of what they do would very much fit what the NBA does. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, Minty, yeah. Last thing before we sign off for today, do you think we win all 7 games between now and next international break?
Yes. My worry comes after that break. So yeah, I think we should be
Fair enough. I also agree. I think we will win all 7. If we don't win all 7, if we draw, say against Milan, or we say we lose against West Ham, I don't think that's the end of the world. Yeah, I don't think it's into the world. I think right now the league for me is all that matters, how Slot does. And I think as long as we can win our league games, everything else will be fine because we can keep our momentum up. I think when our league games start going bad, that's when it goes bad. Because when we've had rough starts in the Champions League, the league form has what kept us taking over. So as long as we keep our league form up, I think we'll manage. All right, that'll be it for me today. Myself, Dan, Hassan, Minty. Always good seeing you guys as always. Reminder, guys, next stream will be tomorrow, Saturday, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 British Standard Time, or your local equivalent. Have a good day. Up the Reds. You'll never walk alone.